Hello, hello. I hope this is working. I'm going to do that whole awkward bit where I have to check and see if I'm going live. I hope that you are all well. If you have not had a chance to watch day one, I sent around an email earlier with, yeah, there I am. I sent around an email earlier with the link to the replay, and I would love to know if you had any thoughts, any ahas, or anything like that as you were watching it. I also, I forgot yesterday to link to the freebies after the video, so I'm going to do that as well. I put together a Google Doc that has got, it's going to have all 3 days links to the replay videos and any of the freebies that I'm giving away for that day. So today is day 2. I'll go ahead, sorry. Okay, good. Yeah, it looks all right. Sorry, the sound is a bit funny. So, sorry if you heard me twice. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then we will get started. Okay. Hopefully you can see that. Let me expand that a bit. All right, that looks good. So, okay, we're back on day 2 of the Procrastination Odyssey. And yesterday I talked a little bit about this bit, goal setting, and different ways that we can goal set and action plan if we're somebody that struggles with procrastination. So how we can do that, that will kind of lead us into the best place to move forward towards our goals with the least amount of procrastination and things like that. So today we're moving into this kind of second with the maze and the smoke, and that's all the obstacles, right? So when I mention obstacles, what I mean are things like self-sabotage, and I'm going to talk a little bit about self-sabotage later, but procrastination, right? Indecision, those things where we get really, really stuck in research mode instead of actually moving forward. Things like taking courses. That was one way that procrastination really, really held me back. And something that I struggled with a lot in my first business, but also in kind of this coaching business. So that belief that you kind of need to know more, you don't know enough. And that leads to being stuck in this area where you're not taking action. You're just learning and learning and learning. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is this kind of area here. And I've got kind of 3 segments that I want to talk about, which is, the first one is, what the heck is going on? Like, why are you procrastinating even on goals that you really, really want? The second bit is just a little bit about a note on self-sabotage, in quotes, and changing your patterns. So the 3 things that I believe are key to kind of changing those procrastination patterns over time so that these obstacles don't keep coming up and keeping you stuck. So why do I keep sabotaging myself and procrastinating even on things that I really want to do in your business? And the good news is that it is your brain doing an excellent, excellent job of keeping you safe. So these self-sabotaging behaviors, and again, things like procrastination and overwhelm and indecision, are some of the many ways that your brain responds to self-doubt. And self-doubt is one of the ways that our brain keeps us safe. And our brain's main job is to keep us safe, right? I think all of kind of life, you know, we have a certain inbuilt desire to continue on, right? And so that can mean physically, spelled mean incorrectly, but that can mean physically, like looking out for moving cars or wild animals. But we evolved as like a communal species, right? And being part of a group and being accepted by the group was crucial for an individual's survival. So our brain also had to learn to look out for these other risks, these psychological risks that might threaten our ability to be accepted as part of that community. So these are things like judgment, rejection, failure, success. So maybe a person who is too successful might not be then accepted into the community and be chucked out. And then obviously it's much more dangerous if you're out there on your own. And, you know, abandonment, that's a huge thing that we would want to always be on the lookout for. And so we have this brain that's always looking out for these risks. And when it senses that something might be risky, something might lead to one of these things happening, then its job is to stop us from taking the action. So if you've listened to any of my talks before, you know, I will talk about sending an email. It's a thing that we all do multiple times a day. Many times you send an email and you have no problem sending an email. If it's like, hey, you know, should we meet up for dinner or whatever? That's something that might be quite easy if you're sending it to your best friend. If you're sending it to a person that you really like and you want to go on a date with, then that is a completely different risk, right? There is a risk in that email of judgment. There's a risk of rejection. And so there's two different, seemingly the same things. Sending an email will have a completely different risk. And so you will perhaps not procrastinate on sending a let's go to dinner email to your best friend, where if you are sending it to somebody that you want to date, you might procrastinate, you might put it off, you might find that you have a million other emails to do before you actually want to send this email. And so this is similar to kind of what's going on in the actions in our business. So if you want to start using Reels in your business, but you are really scared of speaking on camera, then it's probably because that putting yourself out there will carry some risk of judgment. It might carry some risk of failure. And so your brain is going to say, oh, maybe we actually don't want to do that. So there's these two kind of competing parts of your brain, right? There's the part that has the goals and the dreams, and then there's the part that's like the brake, right? So this is the gas pedal and it's pushing you forward, and this is the brake that's holding you back. And so you get this real sense of frustration because you want to move forward, but you're also holding yourself back. But when you hold yourself back, to your brain, that is super successful because you're safe. And so, yeah, you have this real push and pull going on. And that's why you can feel stuck in the middle between those two things. And with these risks, your reaction to the risk is so individual. So what you find risky is based totally on like your own personal history, your experiences, your culture, your parents' experiences, and the beliefs that led them to have, that they then passed on down to you. You know, how your parent can be scared of spiders, and then for your whole life, you're taught that spiders are scary. And then that's a thing that you're scared of. And so you hold these stories about all sorts of different things. And that's why it's so easy. What that things that look so easy for other people can paralyze you. And it's not that you're broken or that there is something wrong with you. It's just that your brain is having a different response to that action. So that action for you, because of your personal experiences, will carry more risk. And so you then struggle to do it. And that's why there's a lot of information out there about different ways that you can kind of overcome your procrastination. And I think that it is so individual. What it is and the reasons why you're procrastinating are so individual that it takes a lot more than following somebody else's, this is what I did. And I think that, that can be with anything, right? With any business thing, people will say, this is what I did. And you have to then look at that based on your own likes and dislikes and preferences and all that to see whether you think that kind of tool will work for you. So some of the things out there you might find work for you. And sometimes you might find that you've tried everything and you're still struggling. And that can be because your brain is just really, really, really good at keeping you safe. So nothing has gone wrong. You just are very safe. Let me just double check and see if we have any comments or anything like that. No, I don't think so. If you have any questions about anything, I should have, I guess, said this earlier, please do pop them in the chat. Let me know. If you're watching this on replay, then let me have a hashtag replay. I'd love to know your takeaways from what I'm saying in the video. So, so that's kind of where procrastination is coming from. And this is, I guess, specifically in those instances where there are things that you really want to do and you find that you just can't take action on them. So there are obviously lots of other reasons why we procrastinate, right? Something is really boring or tedious, or, it's something that somebody else tells you to do and you really don't want to do it. And so you keep putting it off. But the procrastination that I focus on is these times where you really, really want to do something. You have these ideas and these goals and these dreams, and yet you're still struggling to kind of take action. And this is one of the main reasons why. I think it's just because there is an underlying fear there that something might go wrong, and so you don't do it. And I think next is kind of a note on self-sabotage. So I put self-sabotage in quotes. So I don't like to use the term self-sabotage. I use it because it's a common term that a lot of people understand. But if we think about these actions or non-actions, I guess is the case may be, like the procrastination, your brain is not trying to get you to fail. What your brain is doing is trying to stop you from experiencing, the pain of failure. And so it's protecting you. So instead of self-sabotage, I like to think of it as self-protection. And reframing it in that way allows you to be so much more compassionate with yourself when these behaviors show up. And I'll talk a little bit more in a minute about self-compassion and how it, I believe, is one of the keys to stopping these obstacles from keeping you stuck. And so even though you may have been carrying around these thoughts and beliefs and fears and risk sensitivities for decades, current research shows that we are able to change our brains and the neural pathways and the routines. Like, we don't have to live with them. And that's great news. But your brain likes to conserve energy, and much of the day is spent on autopilot. We've all done that where, maybe we're driving in the car and we end up back home and we don't even remember, the drive. So clearly we were paying attention, but it just happened automatically. And this happens in all sorts of things. And so oftentimes these ways that we respond are just a habit. Your brain sees that a task might have a risk of failure. And in order to conserve energy, it says, well, in the past, when I faced this risk, this is what I did. And so it will run that same pattern over and over and over. That means that when you want to change it, it comes to having to choose consciously, basically daily, to act differently. And that can be hard. And I think that's why, yesterday when I talked about task planning, especially on things that we're procrastinating on or that we're struggling with, just doing small things every day can be really, really helpful, because if you're trying to do too much, it's almost too much for your brain, right? Because it's, again, having to spend a lot of energy doing things that are outside of your comfort zone. Whereas if you're making tiny steps every day, then that gives your brain a chance to do a little bit and then kind of go back into energy conservation mode. And then, the next day you do a little bit more. And so, being consciously choosing to act differently is something that's possible, but it does take a lot of energy and it takes a lot of determination. And so trying to force yourself to do that a lot is really hard. And that's why you can kind of do that for time periods. And then you'll find that you start really resisting even more. And that's because, again, it's that, your brain is having to battle against itself in a way. And that's hard. And so it finds other clever ways to kind of get you to stop. But the good news is that over time, choosing that consciously choosing that different way of responding to the risk will change your automatic response. So over time, it gets easier. What used to feel, when you start off feeling really, really difficult, will start to become much easier as your sensitivity to the risk changes, the way you think about the risk changes, and just your brain's kind of changing those neural pathways, right? So that when it sees something that might carry a risk of failure, its first automatic response isn't stop, it might be a little bit, and then it'll say, oh, okay, well, actually, maybe that's all right. So, but this is a process that takes time, and it won't happen overnight. And, I think we've got a lot going on in our lives, and adding more to it is sometimes hard, but I think it's hard either way, right? It's hard when you're beating yourself up and battling yourself because you're stuck. And it's hard choosing to stop staying stuck. Yes. So it's hard either way. And you can then choose whether you want to try something different or stay, in those old patterns. And the 3 keys that I use in the membership to change these patterns are awareness, bravery, and self-compassion. Let me just check in again to see if I've got anybody, any comments or anything. Nope, looks all right. So I'll go through each of these separately and why I think they are so important. So I think it starts with awareness. And it even starts with the stuff that I was talking about at the beginning of this live, right? Understanding what procrastination is a huge first step. I think that was actually one of the keys in making me feel like this was something that I could change, right? I started to believe just by the awareness of like, oh, this is what's actually going on for me when I'm procrastinating. That really allowed me to take a step back and say, oh, okay, well, if that's what's going on, it doesn't mean that I'm like stuck as a procrastinator forever, right? So that is, I think, a huge first step of awareness. But as I mentioned, and all of our sensitivities to risk are so personal, that understanding your personal risk reaction, so the things that you're worried about, any specific fears, any beliefs, the risks that your brain is like extra sensitive to. So I think, you know, for me, things that carry a risk of rejection, things that carry a risk of judgment, things that carry a risk of failure, because of the things that have happened in my life, those are the three that really stand out to me when I think of why I procrastinate on things. And so I think the first step is kind of understanding. It's not a first step. It's all happens together. But one thing is just starting to journal, right? Every day. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on paper, you know, because I know that that doesn't work for everybody. I often find that, you know, when I go for a walk and I start to just think and process that way. And sometimes I take, you know, I'll take my phone and I'll do voice notes to myself and I can process in that way. But just spending time, conscious time, again, trying to understand. Oh, sorry. Hold on one second. What? Yeah.
Thanks.
Kids. So, you know, spending a couple minutes every day at the end of your work day, just reflecting on the day. You know, did I procrastinate today? If so, what did I procrastinate on? Can I figure out what it is about this task that I'm worried about? And I think doing that every day really, really helps you to build that knowledge base so that you know that if a task like that is coming up in the future, oh, it's something like this. Might be something that I have procrastinated on this in the past. I might procrastinate on it again in the future. And here's how I can prepare myself, you know, like physically making sure that you have everything that you need ready to do the thing, and also emotionally. I think in this awareness category, and I feel like I'm stepping ahead a little bit, but it's very important to try to not be judgmental about this. When you are procrastinating and you're trying to figure out why, try to do it in a non-judgmental way. What is going on here? What can I learn from this? And not in a like what went wrong kind of way, or what did I do wrong, or and that kind of thing. So changing the way that you are responding can be really helpful. So I shared about this last week, I think. I'm going to share it again in the freebies, and I'll talk about it at the end, but a daily kind of reflection checklist that has just 3 questions. It should take less than 5 minutes a day that you kind of do at the end of every workday, where you can sit down and it will help you to think about, you know, if I procrastinated today, why? And so again, I think over time, building this awareness of your patterns, of your risk sensitivities, of the kinds of tasks that are likely to lead to procrastination really, really sets you up for knowing that if those tasks in the future come up, then this is why. And it also, I think awareness is key more in a long-term sense. Like I used to, there's like very productive procrastination, right? So you go and do lots of other things that really need doing instead of doing the thing that you said you were going to do. And that can go for days, right? There's always in a business so many different things that need to be done. And it used to take me a while to kind of acknowledge to myself that I'm putting off this task, right? And nowadays, because I am more honest with myself, I think is some of it, I will say, oh, I know that I'm putting something off today. And that doesn't always make it easier to do it straight away, but at least I can acknowledge what's going on. I have that awareness about what's going on so that I can then support myself to choose to face it head on. So I think that's another kind of key of awareness. So bravery, sorry about all the typos. So bravery actually involves just doing the things that you procrastinated on. And I guess I say procrastination in the I'm not doing the thing, but procrastination shows up in lots of different ways. Like I said, it can show up in like very productive ways where you're just doing lots of other stuff. It could be that, it shows up as scrolling on your phone instead of making the reel. It could be that it is, again, like that learning. You get stuck in that learning phase instead of actually doing the thing yourself, always feeling like you don't know enough or you're not ready to get started. And so when I say procrastination, I mean all this kind of umbrella way that we put off doing a task. And so, as I mentioned yesterday in the planning section, this bravery works really, really best by taking small steps every day. When you push yourself outside of your comfort zone too much all in one go, you can, again, I talked about this earlier, but you can maintain that for a little while, but eventually the part of your brain that's looking for safety will get like louder and louder and louder. And then if it, normally finds one way, if your go-to is, scrolling on TikTok for hours and you're like, okay, I'm gonna, uninstall TikTok from my phone. Now I can't procrastinate anymore. Your brain will say, well, I can come up with this other way, right? So, but eventually, if you're pushing and pushing and pushing so long, that can lead to burnout and you feeling even worse about yourself because you pushed and pushed and maybe you still weren't able to kind of achieve your goal or get the thing done. So, I think if somebody has a high level of self-doubt, then doing bravery in small bits is really what's key to being consistent instead of this rush forward and kind of back and forward, rushing forward and falling back. It's like, actually, if we just do a little bit every day, it's that turtle in the hare thing, right? The turtle will get there more quickly in the end. And finally, self-compassion. I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but I believe that self-compassion is really what holds this whole thing together. Because this journey can be really full of lots of ups and downs, when you build a sense of kindness to yourself, that can help you to keep going during those really hard times. As we all know, beating yourself up is not a great long-term way to motivate yourself. Again, that might lead to kind of a short-term push, but it might be another safety thing, right? Your brain is eventually gonna, I think, start to rebel against that a little bit and decide that actually, no, I don't want to do these things that I'm beating myself up to do. So when you're procrastinating and you look at it in a really compassionate way with understanding, then that allows you to keep going. It's okay if you procrastinated today. Like, it's not necessarily what you wanted. Maybe it'll push you back a little bit. But it happens. We're humans. We're imperfect. It's life. And sometimes we have to allow ourselves that grace, right? But self-compassion also consists of listening to your worries and your fears, right? So in that awareness section, building that awareness is a part of self-compassion when you're doing it in a really curious way. How can I understand more about what's going on in a way that you would do with a friend? I think a lot of self-compassion you can look at is, if this was your friend and they were struggling, how would you talk to them? How would you support them? We often don't do the same for ourselves, and it's just turning that back around onto ourselves. We deserve that, even if, and especially if, it's not something that we're used to, right? Maybe we weren't spoken to kindly when we were children, or, there's lots of other things that I'm not necessarily an expert on, so I don't speak about, but, inner child stuff and that kind of thing. And, speaking to yourself with kindness can be a huge step in kind of facing those tricky times. And another aspect of self-compassion is allowing yourself to feel your emotions. I think a lot of times we will push away our emotions and, say that they're not, it's silly of me to feel that way. But if you don't let your body kind of process what's going on with your emotions, then you tend to hold on to them for much longer, and they'll keep coming back and they'll keep getting in the way. Whereas if you are disappointed with something, disappointment is another risk that I forgot to put on the thing. But, if you, something negative response does happen in your business. Say you really wanted to be on a podcast and you didn't get accepted. I think allowing yourself to actually acknowledge the disappointment and feel it versus pushing it away and trying to push past it will help your brain to realize that these risks are things that I can manage, right? So if I really am worried about disappointment, and then anytime I'm disappointed, I push it away, of course, your brain is going to think, I can't handle that negative emotion. Whereas if you say, yes, this is uncomfortable and I can handle it, then your brain starts to learn, actually, this disappointment thing is not a nice feeling, but it is a feeling that I can manage. And so I think, again, with the self-compassion, just really allowing yourself to feel your feelings. And so again, this is a quick start daily action checklist that I created for my membership, but I'm going to give as part of this live learning. Now, there are so many tools in the membership that go deeper into all of these different sections. But I think for an introductory thing, it kind of helps you to start building that muscle. And again, because this is a process and it takes practice, starting small and starting where you can just, spend, it's less than 5 minutes a day going through and doing something brave every day, building that awareness every day, and offering yourself some kind words every day is, I think, a great start to this journey. So that is, again, I spoke way longer than I thought it was going to. I thought it would be done in like 20 minutes. So let me stop sharing my screen. So that is what I wanted to speak about today. Tomorrow, we're going to get into the kind of the end of our journey, right? Because it's never really an end. But goal, success, what does success mean? What does failure mean? And the fourth thing that I have, so I have those 3 keys. There's one more, and I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. So I hope that you will join me. And if you're not able to make it live, again, I'm going to share the replay on my email list. I really do think that tomorrow's live is going to be shorter than this one, but you never know. So thank you so much for joining me, and let me know. You can leave a comment or send me an email if you have any questions about anything. If you're struggling with any of this, like not what I'm talking about, but procrastination, if there's something going on in your business and you would like some support, I am here. I would love to talk to you and support you as you are taking action in your business. All right. I will be back tomorrow, same time. All right. Take care. Bye.